Yo YouTube! This is my video for Friday the 6th of September, which is today. I was going to wait until I'd done my last delivery and I was on my way home, but I think it'll be dark by that point, so I'm going to do it now. Here are my stats for today. So I'm basing an estimated fuel price on the same as it was last week, which is 13.37 pence per mile. I'm not up to date with an accurate figure. I have filled with fuel today, but the fuel price has gone down by about 6 pence since last week, so it'll be less than the figure I've given, 13.37, rather than more when I finally come to find out an accurate answer. So I'm happy to go with the slightly higher figure for now. Today I have driven 360 miles, 360, and I've worked for 12 3/4 hours. So I'm sort of sticking quite regularly between the 12 and 13 hour mark for my days, and that seems to work quite well for me. I've earned £295 today, gross, 295, and that was from 3 CX jobs and 1 non-CX job. I've spent £48 and 13 pence on fuel, and so that means my income today net of fuel is £247, 247. I haven't prepared my weekly summary yet, so I'm going to leave that for this video. And I'll either do a video tomorrow, or I'll do a supplementary little video to go at the end of this one with those figures. But before I talk about today, let's just go back, because the last video I said I'd talk to you on Wednesday, and that didn't happen, did it? Well, during my dialysis on Tuesday, I had what I would describe as a pretty major health crisis. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was very unpleasant, and that meant that I didn't get an awful lot of sleep on Tuesday night, and I just decided that I couldn't really face working on Wednesday, and I needed to have a day of rest, which was the good thing for me to do. I did miss not working, but it was the right thing for me to do. So Thursday morning, I wasn't really ready to go back and do a quick job before dialysis, so I was just waited until today to get a job, and I got this job yesterday afternoon, quite early on in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock ish in the afternoon. So quite early on I had this booked in for today, this first job. So I really had a reasonably good start today. Wasn't very early, but I'm going to talk about what I've done today now, with a few little side avenues of information and my views as I come to them. So my first job was a Boston to Nottingham job. It was for a medium wheelbase van, and it was 67 loaded miles, and I got that for £75, which I thought was a pretty fair price, and I was pleased with that. And I thought, although I quite like the longer jobs, I thought it was a good start to my day. It got me into a good place as in Nottingham in terms of a future job, and so sort of my world was my oyster after that point. So I thought it was a fair job, fair price, and I was happy to do it. It was a 9 o'clock pickup, which was it's a bit later than I ideally want, but it's not too bad. I do struggle to get up in the morning, but when I need to get up, I can do it early if I need to. Right, so I left the house at just before 8:30. I arrived just before 9 o'clock, and I was off site by 9:05 with 2 pallets. I just for the sake of completeness, I was 16 miles away from the pickup point, and I left and went to Nottingham, and it was around about 2 hours to get there. And by the time I'd offloaded, it was 20 past 11. Now there's a slight aside here. When I arrived on site, the guy that met me said he expected me to be there on Monday. I didn't really know what to do about that because I thought, well, I'm here now. You've got the items. I didn't know whether. See, in that situation, I don't know what to say. I don't know what is the appropriate response. I mean, I suppose technically it could be, do you want me to go back then? But that seems a bit churlish and not what I want to do. If it's yes, I agree with you, you're absolutely right, I don't understand the point of that because I don't know if he's right or not. It's just I just don't know what to say, so I just tend to ignore that comment and get on with it. Oh right, here it is then, where do you want me to be? But he said it a second time and I thought, well, okay, I did hear it the first time, I kind of ignored it the first time, I've got no response for you the second time either. So there's a bit of, I don't know if I'd call it tension, but there's a bit of an atmosphere in the air because I delivered it on a Friday. I did say to him, I've come straight from Boston, took me 2 hours straight through here, so to reassure him that I hadn't been holding on to it for sort of days, and that it had been booked in, you know, I told him it had been booked in yesterday to come for this morning. So that's how I approached it. I just gave him the facts that I understood them as. But I don't know, it's a question that I find really hard. It's probably a rhetorical question, but people tend to like an answer to it. Anyway, he didn't have a forklift, which is the problem, and so the kind of atmosphere was like, how to get it off. I asked if he had a pump truck, and he did, and he had plenty of pallets, so the pallet at the back of my van was quite light, so I just got him to put 2 pallets behind my van, and we just dragged off the pallet that was on my van onto the 2 pallets, and then he pump trucked those into the warehouse. But the side door one has a big, much more boxes on. There's no way we could move that. So he said we're going to handball these off. And so I helped him to handball them off onto another pallet, just from my van side door to a pallet on the floor by my side door. So it wasn't a lot of activity, but after about 2 or 3 minutes, I was getting out of breath. I was getting that feeling I get that now recognised as being not great. So I get clammy, and then I get thirsty, and I have to sit down and rest at that point. We'd only done about 2/3 of them, and I said I've got to sit down for a bit. And he said, "Oh, it's all right, I'll carry on." So he seemed okay about doing it by himself. There wasn't. I mean, he was a young, fit lad. I don't think for him it was an issue at all in terms of the effort he needed. But frustratingly for me, it was ridiculously exhausting. And in that situation, my go-to is just get on with this, get it done as quickly as possible, don't make a fuss, and pretend everything's normal. And that's what I always do. And it's only recently where I've had to make myself stop, explain that I can't carry on, have a rest. I've done it twice now, and to be fair, both times I didn't get any grief for it. But you just feel it's like it feels. How does it feel? It makes me feel a bit more useless than I could be. I'd like to be helpful and help him do these things, because it's not his fault that he's not got a forklift, but it's not my fault either. So doing something to help is what my natural go-to, but it's just not good for my health now. I suppose I feel like it's not being particularly useful when I'm sitting there not helping, and it's frustrating. Yeah, maybe that's the term. It's mildly frustrating from my point of view, but I can't just carry on now and just ignore it like I was when I was younger. I've got to sort of take the time and rest. And I suppose my point here is, you know what? This comes to everyone, mate. This comes to everyone. Sooner or later. Sooner or later, you go from you have to do all the heavy lifting and carrying can do as a young person, and when you're an old person, you can't do anything. and at some point between that point A and point B in time, you're going to have a reducing amount of ability to do it. So it comes to all of us, and if it doesn't, it means you're no longer working or no longer able to work, or you're dead. So I'd rather be in a situation where I can do a limited amount than not be able to do anything, because that's where I'm getting to eventually. So I'm trying to make the most of the time I've got where I can work. And now I realise this is not quite a downbeat video, so I'm going to bring it back to my usual hopeful, usual upbeat style and go to the next job. Woohoo! Next job. It was I got the call at 11:43, so I was only waiting for about 20 minutes, and I got a call for a job going from Nottingham to another Nottingham location, and then to Ashford. Oh, I always forget. It's Ashford in something. Oh, it's an Ashford and there's a Kirby in something. I always forget what it is. If you know the area, you know exactly where I am. It's only about 15 miles away north of Nottingham, so it's quite a small one. It was for a long wheelbase van, and I stuck a bid on of £70 based on the idea that it's my minimum price for a long wheelbase is £60. There's an extra stop, so add a tenner on. And I thought there was no way on earth I'm going to get that job. And the reason why I didn't think that was because the company that was putting this on the system had put on had put 3 jobs on. And they are a company I've bidded on work before, but I never get to win it because I'm always too expensive. And in this case, they put £55, and I don't like it when companies put their price on. I always put a bit more on, even if like almost instinctively I put a bit more on, unless it's literally a fair price. But I very rarely find that if a company does that, it is a fair price. It sometimes happens that a company does a fair price, and I will agree with it, but most of the time it's underpriced. So I put on £70, and I thought there's no way I'm going to get that, but I just put on about 3 or 4 of the bids, and I thought I'll stick it on. And my thinking was, if I'm the only one that does it, if I put a bid on and it's the only one the only bid there, I might get a chance of getting it. That's very unlikely. Nottingham seemed like quite a good place to get work from for the drivers. Anyway, would you be? I was amazed. I got a phone call from them, and they said that they couldn't give it to me for that price, but they needed me to do it because I was the only one that had bid, and it was kind of annoying them to get off the books. And I did agree to go to 65 from 70 to 65 because I thought I'm okay with that. It's probably going to be a quickish job, and he asked, and I'd like to help people. So some of you may well have held out for 70 because I was the only bid, but I just didn't feel it was worth. And on this occasion, I didn't feel it was worth the extra £5 to hold out. So I just sort of placated the situation, went down by £5, and I was happy to do the job. And I made a note of the time, which I've said is I got the call at 11:43. And the time that I finished it was, the whole job was about 1:30, so that comes to just less than 2 hours work, and for £65 I'm happy to do 2 hours work for £60. So I think in the end we're all okay with that. Well, I was happy with that, yeah. Anyway, so that was it wasn't a long wheelbase job. It wasn't palletised stuff. It was like large roll, a couple of largish, one long roll, 3 meters, and one 2 by 3 meter sort of printed sign. And the first one was going to a school, which was the big sort of sign, and then the second one was a few rolls going to Ashford or Ashfield. I forgot the first one now. Go to the other place. So the Nottingham one, first one was it's NG2 pickup. I was going to NG3, and that was only about 2.5 miles away. I arrived on site to the school, Delivered that at 12:05. Then I did the 17 miles to the Ashford something place. I really must remember this name. And arrived there and was ready and offloaded at 13:25. Then I parked up, and by about 1:30 I was looking at other jobs. And this is when something happened that's never happened to me before, and it's a nice thing. It's a good thing in some respects. So I parked in the yard of the place I just delivered to, and I just looked for jobs, and I just put there's quite a few jobs here. This was just north of Nottingham, and I was trying to get jobs that were local or going a reasonable distance, but avoiding London for the time being. My vague plan was to get a short job locally, and then a job to London, and that'd be the end of my day. That was an option I could do, but as it was, I bid on 5 jobs, and I got a call at 1:40. So about 10 minutes into doing this, I got a call, and then literally 1 second after that phone rang, I had a second call on my phone, and then I answered the call, took the call, and about 5 seconds later I had a third person calling me, and that was like crazy. So I happened to pick up the first one. They gave me the job. I just double checked it was a job that I'd bid on for today, not for Monday, because there was a job I did bid on for Monday, but it was for today, and that was going from Ilkeston to Rossendale. And at this point I couldn't remember what I'd bid on all these things, so I just assumed if I'd put a bid on, I'd put a bid on for a price that I would have done the job for. And the second job that I didn't get, I had to say I can't do, was going from Derby to Slough, and then the third job that I couldn't do was going somewhere like Mansfield to, I don't know, but somewhere quite far. Let's say Warrington. I don't know, it could have been anywhere, but I can't remember. So any of the jobs I would have done, they're all decent jobs. I didn't really want to do the Slough job, but I priced it at a point that I would have done it and then just gone home. But three offers of jobs, right, all together. And so luckily the one I got was a reasonable job. It was going from Ilkeston to Rossendale, as I said, small van job, 102 loaded miles, and I bid £95 on that, and I got that. I was 17 miles, half an hour away from Ilkeston. Oh yeah, the other thing I did, just to know, is I kind of, because there's plenty of jobs, I just put bids on jobs that within half an hour where I was, and there was plenty of opportunities where in Ashfield to do that. I'm going to have I'm in the wrong lane, I think. No, I'm not going to go around here. So I'm going to have a little mini rant in a moment about what happened on my way up to I picked up in Ilkeston, and then on my way up to Rossendale, about an hour and a half, 2 hours in, I had an experience which I thought was rather worthy of a little rant from me. But I'll just tell you the time I arrived. I arrived about 10 past. So I arrived and was off site at the pickup at 22 minutes past 2, and my scheduled arrival time was 5 past 5. So as I left the site, I did call the shipper and just said, I've got your stuff on van. I'm due to be at the drop-off place at 5:15. Will they still be open? And they said, yes, they're 24 hours a day. Right, bear that in mind, and bear in mind that there was traffic on the way, and I said 5:15. So on the way up, I was thinking about what to do when I arrived, because there was going to be after, it was about 2.5 hour drive, just 2 3/4 hour drive. The traffic was quite busy. I was thinking, I need to try and just look for other jobs getting me somewhere going towards my home. And a job came up, and I'm trying to remember the name of the place. Ashton-under-Lyne, which is just north of Manchester. But I was going through Ashton-under-Lyne to get to Rossendale. Probably about half an hour from between the two places, I'm guessing. And so about an hour away from arriving at Rossendale, a job came up to collect from Ashton-under-Lyne between 4 and 4:30 and to deliver to Norwich tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, at 10 o'clock. And it was for a small van job. And I had a look at the time at Norwich at 10 o'clock. And I can get from Norwich to Boston for my dialysis by 1 o'clock if I do that. So that was that fitted in tomorrow. And it would get me home, paid, and a little bit of a job ready for tomorrow. So it was an ideal job. The problem was I was having to go through Ashton-under-Lyne at the time that they wanted me to pick it up, and then come back later on the way back to pick up the load. Now on my van from Ilkeston was just two, I'm going to say small, sort of two small flat boxes. When I say small, I mean thin. They were kind of printing plates, but wrapped up in cardboard. But they were just handballed on and off. And I rang the shipper, so I put a bid on for the job, and immediately rang the shipper that I was doing the job for now, because I wanted to ask, could I just pop in to Ashton-under-Lyne on my way through to pick up a small van load for tomorrow morning in Norwich. And I rang the company, and the guy at the other end said, no, just do ours direct, please. He actually didn't say please. He said it politely, but he didn't say please. And there's no arguing with that. I've asked, he said no, so that's the end of that then. So before I had a chance to cancel that job, I got a call through from that shipper. So that bid, I did actually win that bid in the end. It wasn't even a job that I bid on and wouldn't ever have known because I had to cancel. They actually called me to offer me the job, and I put a bid on £180, and I had to say to them, unfortunately, I can't get to your job until 5:30. If that's any good for you. And that's just because the person I was working for wouldn't allow me to just pop in and pick up a load on the way through. And it would have been perhaps a 20-minute delay, by the time I got to the place in Ashton and back on target. Maybe not even that, it might have only been a 10-minute delay, but nothing significant. And I found it to be quite petty and unreasonable, but I didn't feel I could ignore it and just carry on and do my own thing. So I had to, in the end, just let go of £180 and that journey home. And I'm sure there would have been a reasonable number of people that wouldn't have bothered calling the first shipper. I'm not saying that's right. It's not right, is it? But it's not something I could do. It's not me. But I do feel that I've lost out on a significant amount of money there because I've tried to do the right thing. And it didn't make any difference to anyone at all. And I'll tell you why. When I arrived at the delivery point at Rossendale, I couldn't find the right place at first. Eventually I found reception. There was no one in reception. I found a guy that was walking past, asked him for some help, and he knew the guy that it was addressed to. He sort of told me his name, and then all I did with it is I put the items into the reception area and left them there. So it wasn't even put into the hands of a person. The reception area was behind a locked door, which the guy let me in, so it wasn't in the open. But for all I know, it's still sitting there, not touched, until he needs to use them later on today. So, in not only do I feel that morally it was a bit mean to not let me do that co-load. I think in practice there's absolutely no practical reason why I couldn't have spent a little bit more time getting to that point, because nobody would have been deleteriously affected. And I know some of you won't agree with that, so you think just, on principle you must never do co-loading, but I just think that sometimes when no one's going to actually, like if it was a food item on board, I wouldn't even ask, because I know that people who produce food don't want it to be mixed, even though they're in boxes. But this was not, so they could be contaminated. It wasn't going to be damaged. It wasn't going to be overly late. So anyway, that's my little rant about that. Where are we now? 25 minutes. So I then, in my frustration, I used that to my benefit, and I then called a local northwest-based shipper who I have previously done work for, and I was in the kind of, I had the confidence with my sort of emotional frustration of the not getting the money. I used that to give me confidence to make a phone call, and sort of use that. And I made the phone call, and I tried to speak to somebody about me being in the area. I spoke to a guy who called me. Actually, there's no one answered, but he called me back, which is really good of him. And I said, I'm in the area. I wasn't. Sometimes there's the Bury to Grimsby job in sort of the early mornings that you do. But is that available? Or anything else available? And there was a job. There was a job available. And he offered to me before he knew where I lived. And he said, there's a job going from Manchester to Nottingham. Could you do that? And it needs to be picked up at 5 o'clock. And the problem was, I was going to be at Rossendale at 5 o'clock. And so I couldn't really get there in time. And I did say to him, well, I can't. If I get there later, I will do it. But I can't get there for that time. Because he knew that I was going to Rossendale first. And anyway, in the end, he said, I've got someone doing this job anyway. So I just wondered whether you'd be better off doing it because it's taking you closer to home. And then he asked me, where do you live? And that's when I said, I live in Peterborough. Now, between me and you, I don't live in Peterborough. I live outside of Peterborough. But whenever anyone ever asks me, it's to go to, I live in Peterborough, because everyone sort of knows where that is, and it avoids any further follow-ups to where I actually live. But don't tell anyone. Right. Anyway, I put the phone down and I just carried on doing my journey. But then very quickly I had to call back, and I was offered the job. And what they were going to do is, the guy that they had got to do it was going to pick it up from Manchester, take it to his home in Oldham, and I would then collect it from him on my way back from Rossendale, and I'd take it to Nottingham. And that seemed to be pretty good for everyone. The driver didn't really want to go to Nottingham. I did speak to him when I picked it up, and I got a bit more information about what he does. And effectively, I think he's got the worst of both worlds, as it were. He's kind of self-employed. He pays for his own van, and he pays for all his own expenses. But he's kind of only working for one company. And maybe it works for him, but he was saying he's struggling to sort of earn enough money. He had in the past been on CX. He was aware of CX, but he couldn't really afford to join CX. For someone like him, the CX would be great because he's doing the job anyway. He just needs to get backloads. So he wasn't going to do it, but anyway. But he did say to me, "Why don't you join this company?" And I'm not going to join them anyway. So I thought he might be someone who was employed by that company, but he's not. So he's not even an employee. So he's not employed, but he's doing jobs for one company, and he's going to pay for his own van and everything. So it seems like a really tough situation to be in. Because if he'd done the job to Nottingham, he'd have to just drive home to Oldham without being paid. So I can't see how that would work for him. Anyway, I did it for a good price. I decided that I would just go in quite reasonable with my pricing. And I said when I got the phone call, I said I'll do it for 80p per loaded mile because it's a small van job and it gets me home. So they worked it out. It was £60, and so I did the job for £60. So I'm guessing that with my bit of £60 and the bit they gave the driver, probably came to in total a normal sort of job, a normal price for that job. If he got 30 quid, say, that's 90 quid for an 75 mile journey. So maybe that's something they can afford to do quite easily. Maybe he got 20 quid, I don't know. So I was happy to get that because it basically got me at a bad time, sort of just gone past 5 o'clock. It got me most of the way home paid for all my fuel, didn't it? My fuel today was £48, so I paid for all my fuel plus a tenner for tomorrow, for whatever. Anyway, so that's my last job, and that was the one that I'd call that would be a non-CX job. That was me calling someone directly who I previously worked for, and then sort of negotiating a sort of a cheapest price to get me home. And I think I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased with today in the end. You can always earn more money. You can always have better days, but I've had many days that have not been as good as this. And I think if I can accept I'm going to work 12 to 13 hours, and if I can be earning about this every time I do that, I can't complain. It may, so I won't go on anymore about that. So, my last sort of aside I can remember, because I was talking to the guy that was sort of isn't employed but does work for one company, I was thinking on the way back tonight, because of my situation with my health, should I consider working for a courier company, sort of being employed? And I'm really not sure that that's the right thing to do. I don't think I'm in the right area for that sort of thing. I don't think I've got the right personality for that sort of thing, and it might just be that I don't have the right schedule availability for that sort of thing. But I'm going to potentially look at it as a way maybe of protecting a bit more income. I think in an ideal world I probably would like to work for a company that does same day courier but that provides the van. So the reason why I mentioned it in this video is, if you happen to know anything that is like that, please let me know in the comments, and I'll look into it. I wouldn't even know, to be fair, where to start looking for that. Like someone who has their own vans, and it might not be something that exists, to be honest. I suppose Speedy Freight, I've seen their vans around. There may be a franchise that locally that does that, so maybe I could ask them. Maybe someone like City something, I can't remember what City. Well, there's other companies. Anyway, so there may well be companies. I'm not going to do the multi-dropping again. I can't. There's no way I could do that physically. It's not about multi-dropping. It's about same-day courier work in a van. I wouldn't mind doing a small van or a large van. No, a long wheelbase van. So yeah, that's kind of what crossed my mind today. As maybe I need to think about it, but it depends whether I can actually earn a living to live off. Right. So that's everything I can think of. Thank you very much for listening to this video. I'm going to see if I can get a job in the morning before dialysis, but it's very unlikely, but I'll look. I might even look. I was thinking, might I look tonight? No, I'll go home tonight, that'll be it. So I probably won't get any more work, so I'll probably end up just doing a short supplementary video with my weekly stats when I work them out. Right, I hope that you are being successful, however you choose to define that word for yourselves, and I shall probably speak to you next on Monday. Farewell, friends.